Those of us well versed in film and cinema have by now seen Nolan's The Odyssey, and more importantly for this video, have seen the trailer that came before The Odyssey for Other Mommy.
Can I go into your heart?
The trailer itself caused a stir for its placement before a film of an entirely different genre, especially because it had a really good jump scare.
If you are going to see The Odyssey
This is the movie trailer
weekend,
that is
you
traumatizing Odyssey moviegoers.
You need a grown-up to help keep
And while some were unduly frightened by said jump scare, I was intrigued. I became even more intrigued when I learned that Other Mommy is based on a book. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Summer, and today we're going to talk about Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This book is a chilling horror novel about a haunting told from the perspective of a young girl whose troubled family is targeted by an entity she calls Other Mommy, from the New York Times best-selling author of Bird Box. I'm going to read this book, I'm going to check in periodically to update you on the story, and then we will reconvene here at my desk to review. By the way, hi, welcome to my new recording space. What do we think? I'm really excited with how my office turned out. I was going to save this view for my Phantom of the Opera video, which I am working on, I promise. I am working on it, I promise. I am chipping away. It's surprising how little you can get done when you have somebody you love to spend time with, and that same person is like, my love, why don't we go to bed at a reasonable hour instead of staying up 41 hours powering through a video and not sleeping for 2 days? But it's like you care about me and you don't want me to get sick from not sleeping. That's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, full spoilers ahead. Let's get into it. I'm turning that light on performatively. Okay, it's about 6:10 a.m. My hope is that I can read this book over the course of the day while the sun is friendly and warm. So by the time the sun goes to sleep and the unfriendly night comes, I can forget this book exists by watching several TV shows and or movies and then sleep soundly because I'm not scared. Let's get started. Okay, so the last time I tried to do one of these reading vlogs, I went in without any sort of plan or format. I was reading the third book in a trilogy. I hadn't read the first two books in over a year. I was trying to give context for what I was saying for something I half remembered, and I wasn't sure when or how I should check in. And so it ended up being a much longer filming process, a much longer reading process, and it was a book that I really didn't enjoy. So I was like, I'm never going to do this again. But here I am trying to do it again. This time, however, I am choosing a book that has very much grabbed my attention, and my plan is to check in every 10 chapters or so. All right, so I did not expect this book to be as scary as it is right off the bat. You open the book, you flip to the dedication, and it says, "For Finnegan and Elliot, for when children, seeing things." Oh, we're not even in the book yet. We're not even in the book yet proper. For when children, seeing things. And that alone is such a good indication of like the tone and tenor of this book. So there is also an author's note right off the bat that says, the unique format of this book is intentional, left justified for narration/action, indentation for dialogue with spaces between, all in the name of perspective. This story is told by a child. And you can see right away, like chapter 1, it just says, "Good night, Daddo. Good night, Mommy. Mommy and Daddo leave my room. I pull the covers up to my chin. Other Mommy comes out of the closet. Hi, I say. I'm so excited to see you again." That was chapter 1. So you can see, even with page 1, chapter 1, and the formatting of this, that it's a little bit of a unique reading experience, because you do need to wrap your mind around this different format. While there are grammatical rules that are being broken in effort to shape the experience and perspective of the story, it is deceptively simple language, so it's easy to read and easy to digest. I haven't had any issue with the format of it, but when I went to go to the library to pick it up and I was telling my friends about the fact that I was making this video, one of them was like, oh yeah, I tried reading it, but I couldn't get past the narrative voice of the child, and I couldn't get past the fact that there wasn't quotations for dialogue and stuff. So if that's something that isn't your cup of tea, it might be a little more difficult to read, but I'm actually really enjoying that aspect of it because I think it builds that tension really well. Because the way this book is written, I may have said this already, but it is deceptively simple language because it's from the point of view of a little girl named Bella, and she's just kind of going through her day to day, talking about what she's thinking and feeling and seeing as it happens. So the story is kind of coming through this childlike babble of information, and it's like, so it's got this patter to it, like a childhood babble where you are listening to a little kid kind of ramble on about something, and then if you like lock in with what the child is saying, you're like, wait a second, what are you talking about? Every now and then you just get like a gut punch of something bonkers that you don't want coming out of a child's mouth. And also the clues and story building and world building that you get around the characters is coming from these little observations that the child is seeing and like commenting on because it's just part of the flow of her day, but she doesn't understand the significance of yet. But we as the reader can understand that significance and start putting these pieces together. I'm really liking that format and that style. In the simplest terms, these are the bare bone actions that have happened between chapters 1 to chapter 10. A little girl named Bella wakes up and has breakfast with her mom. Her mom goes to work. Bella goes upstairs to her bedroom. Her dad says, hey, why don't you come down here and do a puzzle? Bella does a puzzle while her dad is at work. He works from home. Bella and her dad watch a movie. The mom gets home. Bella's mom tucks her in and hangs out in the room for a little while until she thinks Bella has fallen asleep. The next day or a couple days later, Bella and her mom go to a playground where Bella falls down a slide and hits her head. Very, very simple actions. So bare bones, very simple, not much has gone on in the story yet, but it's in the everyday observations and the way the day passes and the things that the little girl is seeing that we learn more about her, we learn about the relationship dynamic in the home, and we learn about other mommy. And also just give you I'm trying to figure out a way to convey the way that this story unfolds without giving too many necessary details or basically like reading verbatim what's happening. But these are short, quick chapters, and over the course of those bare bones actions that I mentioned, this is where the like story unfolds. This is where you get the information about the relationship dynamics in the house and where you learn more about other mommies. So Bella's mom is named Ursula. She works outside of the house and she's constantly busy. She seems like she's a little bit distant. You'll see that Dado, which is what Bella calls her dad, his name is Russ. So Ursula and Russ are the parents. Because Dado will say like, okay, bye, love you, and then the mom will just like leave the room. Or when Ursula gets home, the dad will try and give her a kiss and she kind of dodges. So you can tell there's like a little bit of something crunchy going on between the two of them. There's a little bit of relationship, there's a little bit of a tension there in their relationship. So you get that from like these interactions and some of the things that the mom or dad say when they think Bella's asleep or they think she's not quite paying attention. Basically, we've learned that over the course of Bella's entire childhood, there has been this thing living in her bedroom that she calls Other Mommy. And at first, Other Mommy was very nice to her, was like a friend to her. She would come out of the closet and like if Mommy and Dado were watching a scary movie downstairs, Other Mommy would cover Bella's ears so that she didn't have to hear any of the scary noises. And they would play games like staring contests, and Other Mommy would come out and Other Mommy would come out to say hi to Bella, and then when Bella would go to sleep, other mommy would stand in the closet and stare at Bella all night long while she was sleeping to make sure that Bella didn't have bad dreams, even though Bella could sometimes hear her breathing in her dreams. But as time has gone on and as Bella has been getting older, other mommy has been showing up more and more frequently. Instead of just at night, now she's showing up in the day as well. And instead of staying in the bedroom, she's now starting to venture out to different places. So you get this sense of dread from Bella because whatever it is, it's building. So, for example, the first time I told Mommy and Daddo about other mommy, they laughed. It was good night time, and I told Mommy good night, and then I said it again. And Mommy said, "Why did you say that twice, Bella?" And I said, "I was saying good night to other mommy." They both smiled and their eyes got wide, and Daddo made a funny sound like from a spooky movie. Then Mommy's smile went away, and she asked, "Who's other mommy, Bella?" But I was embarrassed, so I said, "I'm tired." Daddo laughed again and shut the light, and they left my room. But I saw Mommy look back once through the crack in the door. Her eyes looked right at mine. Then she and Daddo went to their own bedroom. Then other mommy made the grunting sound she makes when she stands up on the other side of my bed, in the space between my bed and the wall, when she's been crouched down there on the carpet waiting for them to leave. So that's the kind of tone of the book, and it's deliciously spooky. It's so it's like I was trying to read this on the treadmill because I was like, all right, I did my weightlifting, I did my working out, now it's time to get my steps in, and I'm reading. And every now and then I go, and I can feel my shoulders tense up because it was like little things like that where it's straightforward. It's kind of eerie, but it's not too scary. And then something like, then other mommy made the grunting sound she makes when she stands up on the other side of the bed. So that thing. So it's really well seated out, but it's like in the middle of these like long kind of rambling stories the way a child would tell the story. So it's a very cool way that the story is building. But a through line in it is that other mommy is starting to come out more and more frequently. And when Bella thinks of other mommy, she also thinks of carnations. And other mommy always asks Bella the same question, which is, "Bella, can I go inside your heart?" And I sit at the end of my bed where I know she likes to talk. She's been coming out of the closet a lot more lately. She walks over to me now. Sometimes it's like she floats. She sits on the bed too, slowly, next to me. And she asks, "Can I go into your heart?" And what we learn from these like little bits of these little bits and pieces in these interactions with other mommy is that other mommy for a long time has been asking Bella if she can go into her heart. And Bella almost said yes the first time because mommy and daddy had said to be nice to people and she didn't want to make her sad, but she decided to say no because it made her a little bit scared. She didn't know what that meant. And then as the years have passed, other mommy went from just hanging out in the closet at nighttime or coming out when she was playing in the bedroom to coming out in the daytime. And she doesn't like the look that comes on other mommy's face. And she doesn't like the way that other mommy will peek around the door. And she doesn't like how other mommy stands in the bathroom and like when Daddo comes in the room, stuff like that. Her biggest fear is that other mommy will ask Daddo or her real mom if she can go into their heart, and she's worried that they might say yes, and if that happens, they will go back to wherever other mommy is from. Because one time Bella asked other mommy, "Hey, what's going to happen if I do say I'll go with you?" She didn't say it like that, she's a child, but she's like, "Hey lady, you keep asking this question, what's going to happen if I say yes?" And then other mommy explained, "Oh, I will go into you and you'll go back where I come from." And Bella says, "Well, I don't want to live in the closet." And other mommy says, "Oh, I'm not from the closet." And the fact that other mommy is coming out more and more is starting to affect Bella more and more. It's making her not feel as safe in her own home or be as playful or open a child as she used to be. Because when her dad is like, "Hey, why don't you come downstairs and hang out with me in the den while I'm working? You could do a puzzle or something." He also says, "I used to see you used to go outside a lot more, Bella. Like, is something going on? Like, why don't you want to play outside as much? And she's like, oh, I just don't want to go play outside. But really, when she would play outside, she started getting nervous because she'd look up in her room and she'd see other mommy looking down at her. And so while she's working on a puzzle and her dad is at work, she's trying not to act nervous, but every time she hears creaking on the stairs, she like looks up. It's my husband up there. I'm really glad I live with somebody and I have someone else I can blame those noises on, because if I was hearing stuff like that and I was alone and I was reading this book, I'd be very scared. As she is doing the puzzle, and she'll hear a creak and she'll look, because from the den she can see all the way to the living room stairs. She's really worried that other mommy's going to come downstairs, and that's something that she's never done before. So she keeps looking at the stairs and keeps looking at the stairs, but then she hears a creaking and she looks up and she sees like an eye starting to come through the ceiling, or maybe like a whole face, because other mommy is laying on the bedroom floor, slowly sinking down into it so she can see Bella in the den. And Bella does not want her dad to see other mommy. When she sees the face, Bella gets up, runs upstairs, and by the time she gets up to the room, other mommy's sitting backwards on her bed. And Bella mentions that she doesn't like looking at other mommy from behind because she's got thick black hair on the back of her arms. So she gets in the room and other mommy's like, can I go into your heart, Bella? And Bella's like, no, you can't. And then the dad is like, Bella, what are you doing up here? Why'd you run up here? And as he comes into the room, other mommy stands up and goes into the bathroom. And he's like, are you okay? What's that smell? And Bella's like, oh, I don't know what smell you're talking about. And he goes into the bathroom where we know other mommy is and flushes the toilet. And he's like, hey, you doing okay in your stomach? That smells weird. So it's stuff like that. We realize that other people can sense other mommy. It's not just Bella's imagination. This also happens later in the day when mommy finally comes home, actual mom, Ursula. So right before Ursula gets home, the dad's like, oh, I hear your mom. She must be back. But Bella knows that it's not the mom. But what she's really worried about is she thinks she can hear breathing, a breathing she's very familiar with, coming from inside the dining room. And she thinks she can see the silhouette of other mommy inside the dining room, who has never come downstairs before. And dad turns on the light, other mommy's not there. But this is, the anxiety's ramping up. It's getting kind of weird because other mommy used to just stay in her room, and she's getting more and more impatient with Bella, and she's getting more and more free to walk around. Her husband tries to give her a kiss. She kind of bypasses him. She gets him a drink. They both are having an evening nightcap, and they take Bella up to bed. And Bella knows that when she lays really still and doesn't say anything and acts like she's sleeping, sometimes her mom and dad will say things to her that they wouldn't when she was awake. And right before Bella goes to sleep, she hugs her mom and she says, oh, you smell like somebody else. And her mom kind of pushes back and is like, what do you mean by that? She goes, you smell like a different person. The mom's like, hey, that's rude. Don't tell people that they smell like a different person. And then Bella decides to try and act like she's asleep to see if her mom will say anything else. And while her mom is sitting there, listening to Bella breathing, letting her fall asleep, she's like, why am I doing this? I have a beautiful family. Why am I actually risking that? And so we pick up from that interaction that the mom is likely already in the middle of an affair, or is very close to, is already at least emotionally cheating on her husband, if not about to actually physically cheat on her husband. So while that's happening, Bella can hear other mommy come out of the closet, and then she's kind of watching. Other mommy goes across the room. Her head's up near the ceiling, by the way. Her head's up near the corner, and Bella's like, I'm asleep, I'm asleep, I'm asleep, I'm asleep. And her mom suddenly turns around to go turn off the light or something, to just, get up and be like, all right, Bella's asleep, I'm gonna go. And as she turns, she catches sight of something in the corner, because she can also see other mommy, but she doesn't realize what she's seeing. And the dad comes in and is like, hey, is everything all right? And she's like, I don't know. I thought I saw something up there. Maybe it was a spider. And then the dad's like, do you smell that? And she's like, what are you talking about? She goes, he's like, it smells like, like a toilet pipe or something is leaking. We'll figure it out though. And the two of them leave the room, and Bella is happy for a minute because she can hear them laughing and talking. And so she thinks that's all she wants. She just wants everybody to be happy she wants her parents to keep laughing and holding each other's hands, and she doesn't want other mommy talking to them. And then right as she thinks about that, other mommy comes up on her bed and is like, "Hi, Bella, can I go into your heart?" So then they make it to the park the next day, and Bella and her friend Deb are swinging on the swings while Ursula, Bella's mom, and her friend Carly, who's Deb's mom, and you can tell they're chatting a lot, they're having a big conversation, and you can tell through the body language that Bella notices that the mom is probably telling her friend what's going on with her, because at one point Bella sees her mom like sitting like this with her head in her hands. So you know that the mom is like unburdening herself to her good friend Carla or Carly. Meanwhile, Deb and Bella are swinging on the swings, and Deb's like, "Hey, if anybody ever tried to hurt me, would you hurt them?" Deb is like, "Hey, would you ever hurt anybody?" And Bella's like, "No." And then Deb's like, "Well, what if they were hurting me? Would you hurt them to get them to stop?" And Bella's like, "Yeah, I would do that in that case." And then Deb's like, "Good, because I would do that for you." And Bella's like, "Oh, you would do that for me?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Okay, well, hypothetically, what if," and she did not say hypothetically because she's a child, but she was like, "Hey, what if there was a woman in my room that I was scared of? What would you do with her?" And Deb says, "Oh, I'd tell my mom." And she goes, "Yeah, but what if you told your mom and that would make things worse? Like, what would you do then?" And Deb's kind of like, "Okay, yeah, scary story time. Like, let's get into it." But the more that Bella pushes to be like, "What would you do to her?" You can see like Deb gets more and more uncomfortable. "What if she watched me from the bathroom when I was lying in bed?" I ask. "Then I would stab her," Deb says. She said it loud, and I looked to our mommies, but they didn't hear her. "Stab her?" "Yes," she says. "I would. Leave Bella alone and stab her with a sword." I think of a mean face. "But what if there are no swords?" I ask. "What if I woke up and she was lying in my bed next to me?" "I don't want to play this game anymore," Deb says. "What if I woke up and her face was next to mine? What if her eyes were on the bottom of her face?" So, as Bella keeps up this line of questions, she's kind of chasing Deb through the park, being like, "What would you do if you were seeing the things I'm seeing?" And of course, she's like, "Hypothetically, a third party. No, of course, none of this is actually happening to me." But she can feel that she's doing this in a little bit of a mean way. And she's scared and she's lashing out a little bit. But in the back of her mind, she's remembering this conversation that her dad had with her. And he was just kind of talking out loud. It might have even been one of the times when Bella was asleep and he was just like saying things to get it off his chest. But he basically is like, "I think the true mark of intelligence is kindness." As Bella is chasing Deb around the park, she's remembering what her dad said about kindness, and he said, "Don't let other people's cruelty in." And Bella's question these first 10 chapters has been, should I let her in? Should I let other mommy in? Would that be the nice thing to do? Would that be kind? And you're supposed to be kind. And didn't mommy always say that you can only tempt someone for so long until they give in? And didn't daddy always say that if you ask someone for a favor enough times, eventually they'll say yes? And she's like, "What if I accidentally say yes?" And so her question is, do I say yes? Is that the nice thing? But she's scared and she's worried. And so she was hoping maybe her friend brought this up, like maybe her friend would have some ideas on how she can get out of this. So she's kind of pushing the subject past where Deb is comfortable. And Deb runs up the playground and into this little like wooden cubbyhole that's near like a bridge and a slide. And as Bella starts to apologize because she remembers what her dad says about kindness, and she's like, "Deb, are you up there?" And she can hear breathing, and she's like, "Deb, I'm sorry, are you in there?" And she can hear breathing, and it says, "I crossed the wood bridge. Deb, I'm sorry." I hear her in the dark. She's crying. "Really, Deb, I'm sorry. We can talk about something else." "Get away." "I'm sorry, Deb. Don't tell our mommies. Come out." "No." "Let's play in the sand, I say. I'm sorry." I can see a little of her face in there. She says, "Bella? Yeah? Can I?" "Can you what, Deb?" "Can I go into your heart?" I look over the safety railing down at the playground sand. I see Deb running back to our mommies down there. "Can I, Bella?" It's Deb's voice from the dark. Fingers curl around the edge of the entrance to the woodroom. Fingers with hair. So, whatever other mommy is, it can take on different forms and voices. Has a scary face that sometimes has eyes at the bottom of its face, and the back of the arms and the fingers are covered in dark hair. And so that's where we are with that. But Bella screams. She starts backing up because her worst nightmares are true. Not only is other mommy out of her room and downstairs, she's out of the house, which is the first time that has ever happened. So Bella like kind of runs backwards and she trips at the edge of the slide, slides all the way down and lands on her head really bad. This scares Ursula and Carly, the moms. It scares Deb. And when they get home, the mom is explaining to the dad what happened. She's like, it looked really bad and I don't know why she fell. So the dad's like, well, let's go to the doctor. Doctor is a good, nice, kind man, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And so he's asking Bella, like, hey, what's going on? And the mom's like, she fell on her head. And he's like, no, I want Bella to explain what's happening. And from his line of questions, you kind of get the idea that he knows that Bella might have seen something that scared her. So the doctor was like, were you scared? And she's like, yeah, I'm a little scared. And he goes, what were you scared of? And thanks to what Deb had said about telling her mom and dad, Bella finally is like, I saw other mommy. And this kind of freaks the parents out because she hasn't mentioned other mommy since, like, for a couple of years. Like, that was an imaginary friend that she mentioned a few times when she was little, but she hasn't told them anything about it since. For her to suddenly mention that is very unnerving. And the dad's like, hey, doc, how did you know to ask if she had seen something or was scared? And the doctor is like, well, Bella is a coordinated child. Because Bella here is as coordinated as a child as they come. She's strong, sure of foot. She bounds right up onto the examination bed and she skips her way out of the office. She loves to dance. For the little I know of your Bella, she's not the type to fall down a slide without a reason. So as Bella is in the office and this is going on, she's noting that there's this pattern of ducks and geese around the, like, top of the room, like a border at the top of the wallpaper of ducks chasing geese, like duck, duck, goose. It's a pattern. They're all the same, but when you look at one goose and one duck, you think the other geese are catching up to the other ducks. You think some of the ducks have already been caught, are bleeding. I'm wondering if there's a little bit more to the doctor, because what happens with the doctor next is, well, let's check on your head, he says, though I don't see any signs of concussion in your eyes and your speech isn't slurred and nothing is broken. He pulls the stethoscope from his pocket and says, just watch the geese and the ducks, if you like, Bella. They're more interesting than they let on. Sometimes I think I see a goose catch a duck. Out of the corner of my eye. ... Out of the corner of my eye. So I begin to wonder if maybe there is something, maybe the doctor is going to be a bigger help in this story than that. Maybe the doctor has confronted something like this before. Either he's just saying something ominous that fits the theme, or hopefully he'll be a bigger help because he's kind of noticing the warning signs of something like this. But that's where we are, chapters 1 through 10. I think I talked way more than I thought I was going to, but so far I'm very impressed by the tone and the atmosphere of this book and how incredibly creepy and unnerving it's managed to be only 10 chapters in. I love the little punches where, like, the kid says something that you just don't want to hear a child say, like eyes at the bottom of a face, or the grunting sound other mommy makes when she's curled up next to the bed, stuff like that. So I am gonna keep reading and I'll check back in with you at chapter 20. I just got out of the shower and I was wrong about the doctor. I initially thought maybe that was a little clue or something that he was going to play a bigger part, but now that I've actually read to chapter 20, I don't think he's coming back. I think he was just sounding ominous. So one thing I realized I did forget to mention was the fact that when they were at the doctor's office and they were worried she might have a concussion, Bella's parents said, we should cancel the party. And if you're wondering what party, well, it's the party that we start chapter 11 with. And one thing we learn about Russ and Ursula is that they are not like other moms and dads. They're Amy Poehler in Mean Girls. They're not like the other moms. They're a cool mom. Because what they like to do is invite all their friends over to have a big party, and they hire a babysitter to watch Bella while they're at the party in their own home so that they can have fun and hang out with their friends, and Bella can run around the party and have fun too, but they've got like a responsible, sober adult keeping an eye on her while they're doing so. Bella's excited because when the doctor said she was a coordinated little girl, he was not lying, and he mentioned that she liked to dance, and she's like, not only do I like to dance, I love to dance, and I'm pretty good at dancing. And she actually is good at dancing, her to the point where her parents are surprised at how good she is, and they actually want her to come to the parties so that she can dance for their friends, and they'll be like, look at how good Bella is at dancing. So early on in the night, like, Bella will come down in fancy little party clothes and like do a little dance, and that's just a fun little tradition they have there. So she's excited for the party. The dad and mom all agree that even though it was a scary situation, like, clean bill of health, might as well have the party. The dad is pushing for that more than the mom, because the mom was actually there when Bella hit her head, and she's like, it was really weird, it looked really bad, and worse was the noise that Bella made. And they're like, what noise are you talking about? And she goes, it was this weird, like, when I play it back in my head, I can hear this sound, and it's like a weird grunt that an animal would make when it doesn't get its way. Bear in mind, at that time, Bella was running from other mommy. So Kelvin, the babysitter, gets to the house, and Bella's like, Kelvin, come up here and help me get my party clothes out of the closet, because Bella wanted to get ready before anybody got there, but the closet door was closed and she didn't want to risk opening it. So she's like, you know what, I'll just get different clothes from my dresser and that'll be fine. But the clothes in her dresser are not as good as her party clothes in the closet. So when Kelvin gets there, she's like, yeah, Kelvin, you go ahead and do it. So Kelvin goes to help her, and her mom also comes in, and she's like, what's that in the bathroom? So Bella's like, what, is there something in the bathroom? But turns out to just be like a towel that Bella left on the floor. So she's like, Bella, don't leave towels on the floor. Then Kelvin helps her get her outfit and is like, here, go ahead and head into the bathroom and change. And Bella's worried because she's like, I know when my dad was in here last, other mommy was hiding in the bathtub. So she looks, other mommy's not in the bathtub. So as of right now, other mommy is not in the closet because Kelvin opened the door and didn't scream and she didn't see anything. And other mommy's also not in the bathtub. So other mommy was outside and is now MIA. But next thing Bella knows, Kelvin's on the phone with somebody. He's always on the phone at these parties. Like, he's keeping a good eye on her, but he's also chatting with whoever he has a crush on the other line. He hears something from above and he goes, whoa, Bella, do you guys have squirrels on your roof? Like, I just heard a crazy noise. And that's when Bella realizes other mommy's probably, or I realized other mommy is probably up on the roof. But Bella is like, let's just go downstairs. Let's go downstairs. So they run downstairs and everybody's like, Bella, how are you? Bella, where the heck have you been, Loca? Bella, 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 are you okay? Because everybody's heard about the scary fall that she took. And she's like the little darling of the party anytime she's there, because she's going to go out on that dance floor and she's going to bust a sweet little move. So before that can happen, her dad introduces her to this older, like, hippie kind of lady. And she's like, ah, Bella, I hear that you might be a sensitive. And this is sensitive with a capital S, because she means in the same way that Theo is sensitive in Haunting of Hill House. And she's like, do you mind if I touch your shoulder? And Bella's like, yeah, sure, okay. So this old lady touches her shoulder and she's like, weird. And the dad goes off, and then she's like, Bella, I could have sworn that, like, I could sense that you were sensitive, but I didn't get anything off you. Can I touch your shoulder again? And she's like, okay. And she says, she's like, no, that's not what I was expecting. Like, do you ever see anything, Bella? Or do you talk to anything? And Bella's like, me? No, I never see or do anything anytime, anywhere. Meanwhile, she's actively hearing creaking at the top of the stairs, which is like the sound she associates most with other mommy. And then Bella's like, well, I gotta go dance. That's what the people pay me for. So she goes out onto the dance floor, and her and Kelvin start busting a move. And usually she feels very, very confident in her dancing and in being the best dancer that there is at the party. But for some reason this time she feels kind of self-conscious. Like, she's wondering if, now that all of the adults are kind of asking her questions and talking to her in full conversations like a big girl, like, like an adult, is it as cool that she's dancing? But she keeps going because that's showbiz kid. And as she's dancing, she's noticing like her dad is on one side of the party hanging out with his friends, and her mom is in like a dark corner down a hall, and she's holding the hand of another guy, and their faces start to get close, but then people get in the way, so she doesn't see what happens right then. But as she's dancing, she's busting a move, she hears somebody in the room start telling a scary story, and she can tell just by like the cadence of the words that it's a scary story. And this dude's talking about how when he was younger, he had to go down to his basement, which was the worst part of the house, and it was the part that was scariest. And he had to get like a box of photos for his mom. Hold on. It's hard to talk and put lipstick on at the same time. And while he was down there, he like hurried as fast as he could across the room, because of course it was in the darkest, furthest corner. He grabbed the box, and then from behind this old furnace, he swears he saw his dead aunt like pop out and say shh. And before anybody can like say anything in response to that, one of her mom's best friends, Marcia, lets out this like ear-splitting scream and points at like a blank wall across the room and is like, I just saw a monster there. Because mind you, all the time that Bella has been busting a move, she's been hearing that creaking. And so everybody's like, whoa, are you all right? Like, what's going on? And she's like, no, I saw something over there. It was tall, blue hair, had like a face. And editing Summer, pull up the actual quote, film it, and do that. But Marcia is shaking, and she's still pointing, and she says, it was tall, dark blue hair. And so, and like, she's freaking out, like she saw something. The mom's trying to talk her down. Everybody's trying to be like, hey, it's okay, like you have a little something too much at the party, that kind of thing. And her friend ends up just like going home, and the party breaks up pretty quickly. Ends up going home, and the party breaks up pretty quickly after that. The dad thinks Bella's asleep, so he's pouring his heart out to her. This is something that both parents do. Whenever they think she's sleeping, they just kind of talk about life and serious things and unburden themselves to her little sleeping brain. But she's not sleeping. She's listening. And he's talking about how he had a friend in high school who died when he was 17. He's like, I have a really good life. I'm happy. I'm content, but I'm also a little bit sad. And he's like, and I'm not sure why. And when I think about my friend from high school and everything that he's missing, like he's not just missing out on the big things like graduation and marriage and having a kid. He's missing out on how all of it feels. He's missing out on the feeling of growing up and living a life. And I think about him in the big moments. And one thing that had happened that I forgot to mention was, as Bella and Kelvin were heading down the stairs to the party, Bella brought up carnations to him. And because this is several times she's mentioned carnations, and she's like, oh, carnations, they bring you back to life. And Kelvin's like, well, that's a beautiful idea, Bella, let's go dance. And when they run into her dad, Kelvin's like, oh yes, well, we're having a great time, and I just heard from Bella that carnations can bring people back to life. And the dad goes, oh, Bella, do you mean like reincarnation? And Bella's like, oh, maybe. And she's thinking, yeah, maybe when other mommy was crouched on her knees at the end of my bed, I did mishear her. So, by the way, my hair is wet. I just realized that I opened the cupboard and I never explained that my hair is wet and I'm plopping it. So later when the dad is talking to Bella, or, talking to sleeping Bella, and he's like, and you brought up that idea, and I like to think that maybe it would be nice if my friend got reincarnated as something. And Bella's like, how does that work though? And he's like, oh, so you're awake. Do you do that a lot? Do you listen a lot when we think you're sleeping? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, don't worry. I would have done the same at your age. How else are you going to hear about life? So he's like, yeah, this is that belief. And, people can come back as something else. And she goes, yeah, but what happens to the original body? Like, if somebody does that and, that's what friends do, like, what happens to the original body? And he's like, Bella, I don't think it works that way. But he gets up and he goes to the closet door, which has been closed this whole time. And he lifts his drink to it and he goes, hey, listen, whatever's in there, you're not welcome here anymore. Like, you should leave. We're happy. We want a happy home. You're not welcome. And then the closet creaks open a little bit. And he's like, okay. So he shuts the door. And then he's like, and he looks and he's like, that's a loose hinge. And he's like, Bella, my girl, like, it's going to be okay. I will fix that tomorrow. I am going to fix that right now. So he goes and gets a screwdriver. He tightens the door and he's like, this is fine. Door tries to creak open again. He pushes a chair in front of it and he's like, okay, going to sleep. So he goes to sleep. The next morning, the mom gets home. She's still wearing the clothes from the night before. She smells like the party to Bella. And she's on the phone with somebody and she's like, oh yeah, Marcia, it was really hard getting her to calm down and she had to go stay at her brother's house. But when the dad gets down and he's like, oh, hey, Ursula, you're fine. You're here. Like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, how are you? She tries to give him a hug. And this time he's the one who kind of circumvents it. He kind of dodges the sign of affection. And he's like, where were you? And she's like, oh, I had to spend the night at Marcia's in order to get her to calm down after how crazy that was. And he's like, oh, okay. So they're lying, and we can tell that the dad does kind of sense that something's going on. So the two of them are kind of talking back and forth, and Bella's like, hey, are we still going to the zoo? They go to the zoo, and the zoo is a special place to her family. Her teacher had told her about how certain places can hold significance for people, like the grocery store could be where somebody thinks and works through their problems, and a park could be where somebody brainstorms. And she thinks for her family, the zoo is one of those important places because her parents always seem to be closest and most open with each other when they're walking behind her as she looks at the animals and they're just having a conversation. So they're having one of those conversations and they run into the old lady from the party and she's like, hey, I'm here too. I love the zoo. And if you guys ever want to meet up with us, we meet up to talk about special stuff like on Saturdays or whatever. And the mom starts getting mad. She's like, Russ, we don't need to be introducing more of this weirdness into our daughter's life. Like, clearly something's going on with her. She's scared of this other mommy person. I don't know if I mentioned it, but like at the doctor's office, she tells them that the person she's seeing is other mommy. And they're both weirded out and scared because they haven't heard her mention other mommies since she was a little girl. And so the mom's like, we don't need to add in more spooky stuff. Clearly something's bothering her. We need to just leave it alone. And the dad's like, hey, maybe it could be something cool. So they're kind of getting into more and more of an argument while Bella's looking at the alligators. And she's like, wow, there's an alligator hiding in the mud, kind of how other mommy hides in my closet. I wonder if the reptiles are scared and if they have to deal with scary things in their closets. And then she goes to the butterfly room. And at this point, her parents are in a full-blown argument. And she sees this beautiful... Oh, yeah? Oh. Yeah? Well, come here. So, let me pet my boy. This is Felix. He's my son. Hi. So she sees this beautiful red butterfly. This lighting is probably garbage. I gotta get back up on that. Hold on. Sorry, mister. So she sees this beautiful red butterfly. She starts following it and she sees it on a leaf and it lands near this like blue-winged butterfly. Or she catches like a flash of like a blue-winged butterfly nearby and she's like, hi, Mr. Red Butterfly. My name is Bella. It's great to meet you. My parents are arguing. How are you? Do you ever get scared of anything? And the butterfly kind of flaps its wings and then the blue butterfly blinks. And it's not a butterfly wing, it's an eyeball, and it's watching her, and it's hiding in the bushes the same way that the alligator was hiding in the mud and then disappeared in the same way that other mommy hides in her closet. So she just starts screaming and running out of the butterfly pavilion. She like opens both doors and hopes the butterflies will get some of the butterflies might escape if like she can't. And her mom is like, she's screaming that the other mommy is there because not only has the other mommy left her closet, left her bedroom, gone downstairs, gone to the park, she is now in the zoo with her. So Ursula, the real mom, is like, you know what, this ends right now. So they go home and Ursula starts tearing clothes out of the closet. She's like, Russell, we are dealing with this right now. We are taking care of this situation. And she's like, Bella, listen to me. See, this is an empty closet. It is a small little box of a room. And Bella's like, it is. It's so tiny. It seems so empty. I thought it went on forever. And it seems so small now that something isn't stuck behind my clothes staring at me all the time. And she's like, this is getting closed, and you're not using this closet until whatever phase of life you're going through is over. And she like clears out anything that would like someone would be able to hide behind in the bathroom. And she's like, see, nothing is hiding in there either, and nothing's going to be in there that could hide anything, so you're not going to be scared of that. She clears out all the toys from under her bed, and she's like, and nothing's under your bed. We can see that there's nothing there. You're going to be fine. She's like, and I need you to go to sleep now, Bella. Like, go to bed. You need water and you need rest, and we are dealing with this now. So Bella is very tired. She's been up for a long time. She goes to sleep, and when she wakes up, her mom is by her bed and she has a drink in her hand, and she's just kind of doing what Russ and Urs love to do. Russ and Urs love to just unburden themselves at their sleeping child's bedside. And so she's like, I can't believe this is all happening. Like, I'm so worried about you, Bella, but I'm also worried about me, and I can't believe that I am cheating on my husband. Like, that's what it is. That's what I'm doing. I never thought I was going to be somebody who did that. And she's like, but to be honest, like, I've been doing that. I've been doing this entire time that I've been married to your father. Your father is almost too good of a man. Like, I love him, but he's so kind and so nice and so understanding. Like, maybe I want somebody with like grit and mud and like a little bit of edge. Like, maybe I don't want everything to be perfect and warm all the time. And while she's unburdening, oh, and there's my little daughter too. There she is. Hi. Hers is coming too. While she's unburdening herself, Bella is, of course, awake and like, does mom not hear dad coming down the hallway? Like, I can hear dad moving down the hallway. Like, the floor is creaking. He's coming this way. Can't she hear that? And the mom's like, and I'm probably being selfish and the worst mom ever, because now that this is all going on with you, I have to be focused on you. I can't be focused on me, and I want to be focused on me right now. I want to have good food, and I want to have good sleep, and I want to have good drink, and I want to be out and about and living life. And I'm sick of this idea that parents can like have to be like boxed into this prison of parenthood, and they can't go out and do anything, and we all have to wear the same clothes, and we're all just this unfashionable. Like, she's just really laying it out there for Bella, and Bella is like, do I get up and say, hey mom, dad is coming down the hall? And it feels like you don't want him to know this, because she says at least twice, she's like, and your father has no idea. I don't know how he has no idea, but he doesn't know. And I bet if I were to tell him, he'd say he understands, and he would say that we can make everything better, and in the morning it's all going to look better. She's like, but maybe there are true things in the dark in the same way there's true things in the light. They're still creaking like someone's coming down the hallway. Bella's really trying to decide if she needs to get up, and then the mom goes, and I wonder, like, if I was reborn, like if I was reincarnated. And Bella's like, what? She's like, if I was reincarnated and I started all over again, would I be a better mom this time? Would I be a better person, a better wife? If I had friends who could help me and could fix that for me, and who could help me reincarnate, and who could do that for me, would you do that for me, Bella? Would you let me into your heart? And right then the door opens, and Bella's real mom is standing at the door, and she says, Bella, who are you talking to? Turns on the light, and her face just drops because she can see other mommy too. Bella screams, she runs to her mom, and she looks back, and she just says, who are you talking to in there, Bella? I slide out of bed and run for the door, and I see other mommy is facing me on the end of the bed, and her face is crazy. Mommy? Bella? Mommy turns on the light and she screams, and I know she sees other mommy. Then I'm in mommy's arms, and she's running up the hall, and she's repeating, Dada wasn't home, Dada wasn't home. The hall creaks behind us, and I look over mommy's shoulder and see other mommy peeking out my bedroom door, and her face is big and crazy. So the mom screams, grabs Bella, starts running, and she's like, don't look behind you, sweetie. Bella does look behind her one time, and she sees other mommy like poking out her head from the door. They get outside, they get to the car. It feels safer outside than it does in the house, and Ursula, the real mom, drives her and Bella to their friend Amanda and Dan's house. And Amanda and Dan have a tiny little baby, and they're being very accommodating because they actually do let Ursula and Bella in, and when Russ gets there, they let him in too, and they're like, hey, we don't know what's going on. There was somebody in our house, there was something in our house, and we just need somewhere to stay just for tonight. And they seem kind of hesitant because they're like, okay, we've got our little baby. Like, is this the best idea? You know, what's going on? All of this, of course, is from Bella's point of view. And Amanda, the lady's like, hey, Bella, let's go watch Tangled. Let me turn Tangled on for you. So Bella's not hearing everything. So we also miss out on part of the conversation. But they call Bella in, and Russ is like, hey, has anybody ever touched you at school? Is there like a teacher, a janitor, anybody, any of the other kids? And Bella's like, no, like, I know. So they go, so Russ leaves them there, goes to the cops who are going to go check out the house. And while they're all waiting for him to get back, everybody falls asleep. And they're all asleep in the living room. Dan's in one armchair. Amanda is in a different one with her little baby next to her in the bassinet. And on the couch is Bella and her mom. And her mom's just completely passed out. And Bella is the only one awake. And she can hear everybody breathing, but she also hears a different kind of breathing. Like somebody in the room keeps being about to say something. Like it's the kind of breathing somebody does when they're like the kind of breath that you do right before you speak up. And so she keeps waiting for somebody to talk, and she's like, hello, and then she wishes she didn't say hello, and then she's like, is anybody there? And then she's like, gosh, I gotta stop doing that. She peeks out from under her blanket. She doesn't want to, but she doesn't see anybody. But then Dan wakes up, and he looks in the same part of the room that Bella's been hearing this breathing from, and he's like, Russ, are you there? And Amanda wakes up and she's like, what's going on? He goes, I heard something, like breathing or something. He turns on the light. Nothing's there. Right then, Russ, the dad, actually does knock on the door, and he comes in and he's like, hey, everything's fine. We, couldn't find anything at the house. Thank you so much, you guys, for being accommodating. And Dan and Amanda seem to be getting less accommodating as the night goes on, but they're like, yeah, of course. They're all trying to go to sleep, but Ursula, the mom, steps out briefly, and she's talking on the phone on the porch. About an hour has passed. People are, everybody should be asleep. But Dan comes downstairs and he's like, hey, where's Ursula? And Russell's like, oh, she's out on the porch. And they're like, no, we just saw her in our room. And that's when they're like, hey, you guys are our friends. We love you. You cats to get out of our house, okay? Like, we cannot keep you for this evening because something weird is going on. It's awkward for everybody involved, but Ursula, Russ, and Bella leave. And they go to their grandma's house. And the grandma can clearly tell something's going on because the story they decide to pitch her is, oh, well, we noticed that the power was out and we have to go to your house now. And she goes, oh, okay, so the power's out. It's the middle of the night. How did you figure that out? And the dad's like, my alarm beeps when the power goes out. And she goes, your alarm? And he's like, yeah. She goes, and you noticed the power was out? Mm-hmm. Was the power out on the whole street? Oh, we don't know. Was the power out anywhere else? I couldn't say. And then she's like, well, you guys can go upstairs and go to bed. And they're like, no, we want to sleep downstairs. We'll all sleep downstairs together with you on the first floor, and we won't go upstairs, and we'll all sleep together on the floor in the living room. And the grandma's like, are you gonna tell me what's really going on? Like, is anybody gonna actually tell me what's actually happening? And they're like, it's really weird. We've just been scared. We need to sort this out, but we just need to sleep. And she's like, okay, sleep on the floor if you want to. You're probably going to get woken up by my little dog, Milky, or the sun. It's going to be fine. So they all lay out cushions on the ground, except the grandma, she goes to her real bed. But the mom, the dad, Bella, they all go to sleep on the ground. The little dog, it's like a little crusty white dog, Milky, she's laying on the ground next to her, and Bella's like, maybe things aren't going to be as bad as long as, like, I've got little Milky here, and she's licking my face, and then she goes to sleep. But even in her dream, Milky still seems to be licking her face, but in the dream, Milky is a giant creature who's too tall and has to crouch to get around the bedroom, and does a little dog giggle when she says, I love you, Milky, good night. That was one thing I forgot to mention. When the mom was asking Bella, like, what does other mommy look like? She's like, oh, she's big. She's like, how big? And she goes, she has to crouch to move around the bedroom. So what we've learned is that other mommy... Oh, also, what we've learned across the first 20 chapters and in the interrogation between Bella and her real mom, is that other mommy is really big, so large that she has to crouch to get around the room, but also sometimes small, and has black hair on the back of her arms and her fingers, and sometimes her face is wrong. Sometimes her eyes are on the bottom of her face, sometimes her eyes are on the side of her face, sometimes her face is on the side of her head, so she changes, and she's always there. And that was chapters 11 through 20. So I will see you guys when I hit chapter 30. I am going to make lunch for myself now. Okay, chapters 21 through 30, just finished them. What happened? I'm pondering now. A lot went on. I am still really enjoying the voice that the book is written in. I really like the point of view of the child because it makes the drama of what's happening almost as mysterious as the question of like what the other mommy is. So it's like you've got the mystery of what's going on with her, why the other mommy chose her, and the relationship dynamics are presented in a way where we're getting just little bits and pieces of it instead of anything from the grown-ups' point of view. So we have to kind of wait in suspense the way she is waiting in suspense. And we may, as like the audience, understand more of what's going on with them than she does, but it's still obscured for us because it's obscured for her. She can only hear it when the TV isn't playing, or she's paying attention, or she's looking in the right direction. Like, whatever her parents say, we only get what she hears. I don't know. I really like that. I'm really just enjoying how this story is unfolding. So, where did we leave off? At the end of chapter 20, we pick up the next morning. They're all at the grandmother's house, and the grandma is one of those old ladies in books that just has some good sense to her, and I always love an old lady character with good sense to her. And she's like, hey, clearly Bella is eavesdropping. She is not asleep. I think we all need to talk about this as a family and get some answers. And so for the first time, Bella is actually telling them about other mommy. And they're like, how many times have you seen her? More than once? And she's like, yeah. They're like 100 times. And she's like, I don't know. And the grandma's like, okay, I didn't think you'd have an exact number, but maybe 100 times. And Bella's like, yeah, maybe 100 times. So the parents are just floored that their daughter has been going through this and hasn't mentioned anything. And they're very upset that Bella has been going through this for as long as she has, that she didn't tell them, and that this thing is real. And the mom is having a really, really hard time just kind of grasping onto this because she is an adult woman who actually saw like a child's imaginary friend, and that like that shouldn't be possible. And so her brain is kind of like freaking out right now, and she actually leaves the house, and she leaves Bella, her grandma Ruth, and Daddo Russ to just kind of think about these things for a while. Grandma's asking some hard questions, and she's like, I know these seem like they're hard questions that are going to make Bella more scared, but we need to ask her them so that we know what's going on. And the dad starts asking her some questions too. He and Bella go walking around in the woods, and as he's asking her and getting more information about who the other mommy is, how many times other mommy has talked to her, Bella hears like a creak in the trees that sounds like a creak that would come from the closet when other mommy would open the doors. And so she like knows that other mommy is there. She doesn't really matter where they're going, other mommy is going to follow them. So they managed to get a hold of that Lois woman from the party, and she's like, I'm gonna do the best I can to help you guys. I've got a group of friends who are into the same things I am, so we're all gonna meet together and we're gonna see if we can tell this thing to get away from you. This is not how I would handle it. Personally, what I would do is cast it out in the name of Jesus and just do that until it was gone, and then trust that the Lord is going to keep that thing away. Nothing of that in my house, thank you. And that's how I would handle it. And that is the best and truly, I think, only way to handle that. But these people get together, they've got like a circle of candles, and they've got crystals or like a hand telephone, and they're like, we're all just going to say in our spirit voices, go away, other mommy. Bella doesn't want you here. Go away. And while they're doing this, Bella starts thinking, and because Lois had said, you know, Bella is not comfortable after these encounters. And Bella's like, well, there was a time when I was excited to see other mommy, and she told me that we were friends. Is it really that bad that she talked to me? Isn't she my friend? Like, am I being mean by not being friends with her? And wasn't there a time when I was just as excited to see her as I was scared to see her? And this is all making her a little bit conflicted, and she's the only one in the circle who doesn't have her eyes closed. And she notices that this guy who'd kind of been talking out at the beginning to be like, hey, I really don't think we should do this, he gets up and he's like, I can hear her. Everybody else is too busy talking to like hear that he is speaking and saying something different than the rest of them. And so he kind of gets up, he goes over to Bella, and he's like, she just told me she left you a present. And then right then he blows out all the candles, and everybody's like, what are you doing, Kyle? Kyle, what are you doing? Sorry, Kyle's a creep and a weirdo. We don't want to talk to Kyle anymore. The whole circle breaks up. They all go to leave. And right then Ursula, the mom, shows up and she's crying, and Bella overhears her telling the dad, Russ, that they found him in a closet. They found him in a closet, like he'd been sleeping in there. And Russ is like, what are you talking about? What's going on? And then she's like, Frank Doherty. And so this is like the climax for the cheating storyline, because right now it's implied that Ursula left her family in the middle of this to kind of process and deal with what's going on, went to her affair partner Frank Doherty's house, and then found him dead in the closet shortly after Kyle told Bella that other mommy had left her a gift. This is also when the dad is like, Frank Doherty, what were you doing at his house? And that's when he realizes that his wife has been cheating on him. And so they're in the middle of this thing where clearly neither one of them can go in different directions because they both need to be there for their daughter. There is no safe place for them to go because this thing seems to be chasing them. But in the middle of all of this, like, their marriage is actively dissolving because the affair was just uncovered. So they leave Lois's house. They're trying to find somewhere else to stay. And the mom says, we could go to Frank's house. And the dad's like, are you kidding me? And she's like, no, I have the key. We know that the thing has been to my mom's house. It's been to our house. It's been to the hotel. Like, we should go there. That would be a safe place to go. So they go there for a little while and they ask Bella, they're like, is there any way that you can tell that she's here? And she thinks about it and she's like, yeah, sometimes I can smell her. Sometimes there's a creak that I know means she's there. Sometimes I can just tell. And they're like, well, do you feel her here right now? And she's like, no, I don't. So they turn on all the lights, but upstairs where they don't go is closet dark, is what she says, because the closet is where other mommy comes from. So no, that's not where she comes from, but that's where she likes to hang out. So they're all trying to keep it together, basically. And the dad is like, I am not going to go to sleep yet. I'm going to stay up and keep watch. And the grandma's like, hey, none of us are thinking straight right now. Everybody makes bad decisions when we're as tired as we are. So how about I will take the first watch. You go to sleep. Ursula, you go to sleep. Bella, you go to sleep. I'll keep watch. And the dad is like, absolutely not. I will not be going to bed. I will certainly not be sleeping in this man's bedroom, the man who was cheating on my wife. He doesn't say that, but he's like, I am not sleeping in here. And that's all there is to that. And he's like, I will take first watch. You do whatever you need to. He goes and sits on the couch. So Bella goes in there with him. She's laying on the couch with her dad. And she can hear her mom and grandma like talking in the other room, and the mom keeps getting like more and more loud, and the grandma's like, hey, you need to calm down. And like she's crying a whole bunch. The dad had even said earlier when they were getting to the house, he's like, you're acting like you were in love with this guy. And so this is when Bella decides to tell her dad, hey, Dad, I think I need to tell you that I'm pretty sure Frank is dead because of other mommy. That's not how she says it. She says it in a much more childlike way, but he's like, what do you mean? She tells him what Kyle told her, and he's like, great, okay, I gotta go tell them. So the dad goes into the bedroom and he starts telling the mom, like, hey, this is what's going on, and Bella thinks that the monster killed your boyfriend. And the mom is trying to defend herself and defend some of her actions, and she's like, hey, listen, like, you knew this was happening. You even told me you liked the idea one night. And he's like, hold on, I don't think I ever said that. And the grandma's like, guys, we need to calm down. And while this is all going on, Bella hears a creak coming from upstairs, and she's like, guys, I think she's here. And they're like, you think I wanted my wife to cheat on me? Like, the argument's getting louder and louder. She's like, guys, I think she's here. Nobody's listening to her because they've got their own melodrama going on. And then finally she is like, this woman is in the house. Other mommy is in the house. They wind up spending the night at a gas station, and Bella's just awake and trying to think about what she needs to do in this situation, because she remembers when she was younger and the first time she met other mommy. And she was laying in bed and the closet doors cracked open and she saw something and she thought it was someone hanging upside down. But then the car lights came in through the window and she realized, no, that's just what her face looked like. She saw the face in the closet and she heard this voice say, Bella covered up her face because she was scared there was something talking in her closet, and she feels this creature come up right to the edge of where her face is, like covered by the blanket, like she could feel the lips moving against the blanket, and she says, peekaboo. Peekaboo, you. And that's the same game that her mom would play with her. So then she hears like the creaking and the slink of this creature moving away, and the closet doors creak, and then she hears that same voice says, do you like me better in here? And Bella pulls her blanket down and she sees that the creature is in the closet now and the door's a little bit open, and she nods because she does like it better when the other mommy's over there. And then she goes, mommy? Because that's the person who played peekaboo with her. So logical next step would be that mommy is in the closet saying crazy things. And the voice goes, other mommy. After that, she would see other mommy all the time. I would always ask the question, can I come inside your heart? Told her about how she wanted her to bring her back to life so that she, other mommy, could walk around and talk like Bella, but Bella was scared. She's like, but where will I go? And other mommy says, you'll go where I come from. And Bella goes, I don't want to go to the closet. And other mommy says, I don't come from the closet. All the while that these revelations are going on and we're learning sort of the origin of other mommy in Bella's bedroom. Not quite the origin, Bella's first encounter with the other mommy. Bella is the only one awake in this car. Dado had pulled the car into a very well-lit gas station. Everybody else had fallen asleep, and Bella's just sitting there. And she's thinking about the fact that her parents are going to get divorced. How there's like a really great line where, like, there is sort of like a poetry to this book. I really enjoy the prose. But like at one point, she's worried about people getting divorced, and it says, I know a kid at school whose parents got divorced. I remember thinking the word sounds like what it means. She's worried that mommy and daddy are going to get divorced. Her greatest wish in life is that mommy and daddy would be happy like they used to when she was younger. She doesn't know why they can't be happy like that anymore. And Bella knows that other mommy was the only person who was there for her when things started getting different, when mommy stopped laughing as much with daddy, when they didn't hold hands as much, when things were changing and they weren't as happy, and that made her mad and she wanted to scream, and she knew other mommy wanted to scream just as much as she did, and that made her feel better. And isn't that what friends are? And isn't she friends with other mommy? And she doesn't know what to do because she's scared, but she also knows that other mommy was her friend once. Like, there was a time when she considered her a friend, or was just as excited, this is said several times, just as excited to see other mommy as she was afraid to see her. So she's going through this existential crisis to be like, what do I do in this situation? And is the only way to stop everything for me to say yes? Bella realizes the thing she's most afraid of is that she will say yes. Like, that is her biggest fear, that she's just going to say it one time for the sake of saying it, to help everybody around her, just because she doesn't want to be in this situation anymore. And that frightens her because she doesn't know where she's going to go. So chapter 30, I think, was they all woke up in the morning, they went to a church, and the grandma and mom tried to tell the priests what were going on. And the priest said, no, thank you. We need more evidence than that. Do you guys use drugs? And they were like, no, we don't. and they realize that they are on their own. And Ursula's like, hey, I think we just need to kill this thing. Like, I think it's up to us and we're just going to have to kill it. And the dad's like, how are we supposed to do that? And the mom's like, I do not know, but I think that's our only solution right now. Even Bella is like, how do we hurt her? She doesn't know, and she's also conflicted because she doesn't know if she wants to hurt her. And so she says, I try to imagine how to hurt other mommy. I don't like to think about it, but I don't stop either. I think. How? How can I help? And which way is worse? Hurting her or helping? So the big conflict right now as we go into chapter 31 is that Bella, I'm worried, is going to take matters into her own hand and actually say yes in an effort to help her mommy and daddy be less upset, and in order to stop other mommy from leaving her any gifts, which was Frank Doherty, because other mommy knows that Bella is upset that her mom is a dirty little cheating cheater face. And so that's where we have left off. I will pick back up with you when we hit chapter 40. Okay, so chapters 31 to 40 are read. I think I only have 11 chapters left, so the next time I check in, it will be the end of the book. So the whole family just keeps driving around for a little while, trying to figure out what to do, where to stay, where are they actually going to be able to be safe from this thing, since it seems to follow them everywhere. Finally, at the end of the night, the grandma, Ruth, calls an old friend named Evelyn and asks if they can stay at her house tonight. And Evelyn is very happy to see them. She has this huge house, and she's like, I made up 3 bedrooms for you. A house this big needs people in it. I'm so glad you're here. Do you guys want anything to eat? I have frozen pizza. They make the frozen pizza. She gets them drinks. She gets Bella grape juice. She gets the mom and dad some bourbon, and they're having a nice time. Like, it seems for the first time in a while, everybody's just determined to be happy for a moment. They're playing records. Bella's dancing. Her mom Ursula and Russ, they're dancing with her, and everybody's having a good time. And it seems like, at least for the moment, Ursula and Russ have set aside their anger and disappointment about what's going on with their marriage to just like be together, because it seems like they did have a really strong, solid relationship for a long time before the mom messed up in the way that she did. And so that's what they're relying on right now while everything's fallen apart with their kid. At one point in the evening, Bella is supposed to stay with her parents, like in eyesight of everybody. And at one point she thinks she sees somebody coming down the hall, and it turns out to just be Evelyn. And Bella goes to listen to Evelyn and her grandma in the kitchen, and the grandma's telling her what's going on, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I know this all seems crazy, but we just needed somewhere to stay. And Evelyn's like, hey, it's okay. Like, I don't usually believe this kind of stuff, but I know you, and I think there's probably some root to this that has to do with marriage problems and stuff. I think it's all going to sort itself out. After a while, they all go to bed, and they had decided that they were just going to tell Evelyn, hey, thank you so much for setting up 3 rooms for us. And then they were all just going to sleep in the same bedroom. Like, Evelyn didn't need to know. And as they were touring the rooms early on before pizza and everything, they looked at one room. It was a beautiful room. It used to belong to Evelyn's daughter, January, and the closet was closed. And that first room would have been a good spot for Bella. Then they look at the next room. It's got a really beautiful view. It used to belong to Evelyn's son, July, and she thinks it would be a good room for the couple, so for the mom and dad, and the closet is closed in that room. Further down the hall is a yellow bedroom that has 2 beds in it. It's a guest bedroom, and Evelyn's like, Ruth, this is where you'll stay. It's really great to have people in the house again. But unlike January and July's room, the yellow guest bedroom, the closet is open just a little bit. So they decide before they go down to eat and have the party and pizza, they're like, hey, we're all going to sleep together in this guest bedroom. Bella and Dado, you'll sleep in one bed. Ursula and Ruth will sleep in the other bed, and they'll all be together. But by the end of the night, they've had a lot of drinks. They're all feeling a little bit better. And Ruth ends up sleeping in her own room, or at least talking late into the night with Evelyn. So she's not in the guest bedroom. And Dado falls asleep on his own bed, and Bella is in bed with her mom, and both of them are like completely knocked out from all the bourbon they had. Like, based on what they were saying, they've had like 2 bottles of bourbon between the 2 of them. So they are knocked out. And Bella has to go to the bathroom. And they told her, they said, if you need to go to the bathroom, you go with us. You do not leave this room without us. But she tries to wake them up and neither one of them will. And she really has to go to the bathroom. So she decides she's going to start trying to encourage herself to be brave using Kelvin's voice, because Kelvin was her babysitter, and she's like, what would Kelvin say? And she's like, Kelvin would tell me to look in the closet and see if there's something I can go to the bathroom in. Because Kelvin had like told her a story about once when he was camping and he had to pee in a shoe or something like that. So she's like, okay, I'll look in the closet. She opens the closet, the lamplight illuminates it. There's nothing in there, but there's also nothing for her to pee in. So she's like, okay, I'm going to have to go down the hall. I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. And she tries to like pump herself up and be like, yeah, go to the bathroom, Bella. So she opens the door. She sees like the long hallway and 4 doors next to it. And one is kind of like a skinnier door than the other. And she's like, she's like, I think that's the bathroom. So she runs down there. She turns it on. She thinks it's a closet for a second, but it's not. It's the bathroom. And she's like, okay, I did it. And Kelvin would be proud of me. And she looks in the bathroom, and behind the closed shower curtain, she sees Evelyn in the bathtub. And she's like, Evelyn, I'm sorry, I just need to go to the bathroom. And Evelyn doesn't say anything. She's like, Evelyn, are you in there? And she opens up the curtain, and nothing's there. The bathtub is empty. The wall behind the bathtub is painted black. There's nobody in there. So she's like, okay. So she backs up. She goes to the bathroom. She has to like, she's short because she's a little girl. She has to try and like hike herself onto the toilet because it's bigger than the potty at home. And she's like, hold on. And Kelvin would tell me, good job. And Dado would tell me, good job. And Mommy would tell me I sat on someone's lap. So she looks down and she realizes that she's not sitting on the toilet. She's sitting on someone's legs, and it's 2 like cold, wet, fishy, fur-covered legs. And she gets up, and other Mommy is just like sitting crouched kind of against the wall, holding her face in her hands. I think I may have conveyed like, oh, she's sitting against the wall holding her face in her hands. No, she's sitting against the wall and her face is in her hands. Like she took it off and she's holding it out here, outside of like, her face is here and she's sitting against the wall. Nothing, face in her hands, doing like a wall squat. Not my ideal bathroom experience, personally. And so Bella screams, and then Grandma rushes in, Evelyn rushes in, and Evelyn, like, loses her mind. She's like, get that thing out of my house. Get all of you out of my house. I can't believe you brought this to my house. Dado and real Mommy wake up, and they're screaming, and everybody's trying to run downstairs, and other Mommy is just, like, coming after them. Like, everybody can see this horrible thing, and it's just chasing them down the stairs, and they're trying to get Evelyn to come in the car with them, and she's like, no! I am not leaving my house. This is my home. You guys go, and it'll go with you. And so that's when the family realizes that they actually do need to just return home. Like, that is the place they need to go, because it honestly doesn't matter. So they get back home and they lock that bad boy down. They put security cameras in every single room. They hire 2 guard dogs to be in the house, like professionally trained guard dogs who had to be trained with their scent to accept them to make sure that nobody is getting in the house. Like, Bella's really excited because she loves dogs. They're like, these dogs are not pets. You cannot play with these dogs. And all of this is making her feel bad. She can tell both of her parents are tired. She's sad that the dogs aren't allowed to be petted because they're at work. And she's like, this is all my fault. And they're taking turns sleeping so that someone's always awake. They leave all the lights on. Anytime, they're all listening for creaking. They're all watching to see how the dogs are reacting to everything, because sometimes the dogs will like perk up and look up at the ceiling or go to the bottom of the stairs and look up. So it's just a tense, uneasy atmosphere. And one night they go to bed. One of the parents is supposed to stay up. One is going to sleep with Bella. And Bella wakes up in her own bedroom in complete darkness. And they are not going upstairs anymore. Like, they are basically just staying within sight of each other no matter what. She wakes up in her bedroom, And from the closet, she hears Kelvin's voice. And he's like, hey, Bella, it's me. And she can see his eyes glowing. And it looks like Kelvin, kind of. She's like, oh, hi, Kelvin. What are you doing here? And he goes, oh, your mom and dad called me because they knew you needed a friend out here. And she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, well, I want to go back downstairs to them. And he's like, oh, you can't. There's a party going on. And she can actually hear the sound of music and voices, but it sounds like it's, hello. Will you bring me 3 grapes? Thank you. So she can hear this party going on, but she says it almost sounds like it's coming. It's not just downstairs. It almost sounds like it's 2 downstairs away. Like it's really far distant music. And Kelvin is like, yeah, I'm here to watch you while they're having a party. They missed people. And have you noticed that they're really not doing well together? And she goes, I don't know if I noticed that. And he goes, no, you did notice that. And she goes, yeah, I guess I did notice that. And Kelvin's like, well, I can help you. I know exactly what to do and say to make sure that they are as happy as possible and they won't be fighting anymore and they won't be mad. Would you like me to help? And she goes, yeah, I want you to tell me what I should do and say. And he goes, no, it's too much to teach you. Really, I would just be able to do it if you would just let me be you for just one day, Bella. And Bella's like, well, what'll I be? And he goes, you'll be you and I'll be you, but just for one day. Obviously, this is not Kelvin. She's starting to remember one of the first times Other Mommy asked her the question. And she was like, there's like lots of little flashbacks where she asks Other Mommy what that would mean. And like, how long would Other Mommy want to be in her heart? And she goes, oh, not long. Just for a life. And a different time when Bella had been like afraid and she goes, well, I'm scared what would happen if I said yes. And Other Mommy didn't say anything. She just stared at her and looked at her like she was hungry. So all of this is kind of coming into her mind while Kelvin is standing there trying to be like, listen, I can fix your parents' marital troubles if you would just let me be you for a day. And then Bella's like, well, where are the dogs? And he's like, they're outside. And she looks outside and he's like, can you see them? And she can feel Kelvin right behind her. She turns around and Kelvin is just kind of looking at her and she scoots around him and starts trying to go downstairs. And she says, it says in the book, I don't think his clothes, she says, I think his clothes only cover the front of him. I think he's crouching in the darkness from behind. So it's just like this creature just keeps putting on this face. Oh, that reminds me, in those flashbacks, while we're getting all of this information that's actually happening, like Bella up in the bedroom by herself with Kelvin, we keep getting little flashbacks to other times. And one of them is the first and only time she's heard Other Mommy laugh. And she was in the bathroom and she heard Kelvin talking about reincarnation and laughing with a friend. And she walked out and Other Mommy was there. Kelvin was outside on the phone. And Other Mommy said, do you see that? I can sound like anybody you know, Bella. And then she laughed in Kelvin's voice. And then she laughed in her real voice. And Bella says, I didn't want to think about her laugh. She also described Other Mommy's scent earlier in the book, maybe chapter like 25. She said it smells like when Pester, their cat, they had a cat named Pester that had died. She said Other Mommy smelled like the time Pester found a dead mouse covered in bugs. Pester's also important because one of the times Other Mommy had asked, like, will you let me into your heart? She had said, think about it as if, she's like, imagine I were Pester and I was outside your door and you were being mean to me and you wouldn't let me in. And imagine how much I would meow and meow and meow until it would make you crazy until I decided to be mean too. So that's kind of the level of threat that Other Mommy has been giving this poor little like 8 to 10-year-old child. Anyway, she's in the bedroom with Kelvin. She manages to run down the stairs. She knows Other Mommy's trying to get after her. There's still the sound of this weird party happening until she gets downstairs. The dogs are barking. The parents are both scared. They thought they heard other things in the house. And all this time, the dad has been looking up people who can help them, people who specialize in ghost hunts and exorcisms and stuff like that. And they finally decide this is the last straw. They're going to hire this guy that they found online. They hire this guy. They get the dogs to accept him. He comes in. He does a tour of the house. He looks through each room. He stays a long time in Bella's bedroom, like looking at something. And he's like, okay, now that I'm here, I know what I'm going to do. We're going to try and trick this thing. And so they're feeling a little bit more hopeful that someone's actually believing them and is staying there, but they still don't know anything about this guy, and he seems kind of, scary and odd. So the parents are again taking shifts to sleep and stuff like that. And this guy, he talks a big game about he'll only believe if he sees it himself. He's not going to take their video evidence as anything, because the dad does have video evidence. When Bella got back downstairs after talking to Kelvin, or Other Mommy as Kelvin, he actually looks at their security cam footage, and he got Other Mommy on the security cam footage. So he tries to give that to this guy. The guy's like, no, I don't care. I want to see it myself, and then we'll figure it out. They're all in the house together. They're taking shifts sleeping, and Brian, the guy who's come in, who's supposed to help them, is in the kitchen. And all of a sudden they start hearing something from the kitchen. It's like the middle of the night. Dado was asleep and he wakes up, but they run in there and Other Mommy is just crouched in the corner of the kitchen looking at Brian. And Brian starts approaching her, and the dogs are barking, and Brian's like walking up to her with his hand out like he wants to just touch her, and Other Mommy's jaw just starts getting longer and longer, and her mouth keeps getting wider, and Brian's just walking up to her. Dado comes in, everybody's screaming, the dogs are barking, and Other Mommy starts yelling, and it's this huge sound that like blows everybody back. Real Mommy is like plastered up against the wall. She can't move. Dado got knocked across the room. The dogs can't get any further in. Bella is like held to the floor by the power of this sound. And the guy is just still walking up to Other Mommy. And he manages to like brush his fingers across her face before everything like falls down and Other Mommy disappears. And this guy, he looks at them. He's smiling and he says, I finally saw one. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. But what are you going to do? And he goes, I saw one. It wasn't on video. I saw it and I touched it. And he just leaves their house. They're chasing him down the street and they're like, dude, what are you talking about? And he's like, I saw one. I didn't see it on video. And they're like, you tricked us. You just came in here to see if you could see a ghost or whatever this thing is and not actually help us. And he's like, yeah, pretty much, whatever, peace out. And then he drives away. And he punches the dad first because the dad tries to punch him. And then he goes away, and and Ursula and Russ, real mom and dad, are like, okay, I think we're just gonna have to do it ourselves. And poor sweet little Bella is left thinking, I know that this is all my fault, and I know that the only way to fix this is to say yes, but what would happen to me? Where would I go if I said yes? And she's also now has the added burden of thinking that if Other Mommy took over for just a little while, then her mom and dad would be happy again because Other Mommy would be able to fix it. So things are getting tense. Like I said, I'm on chapter 40. I'm about to hit chapter 41, and chapter 51 is the last chapter of the book. So next time I check in should be the end of the story. Okay, I have finished Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. And let me pick up where I left off. Okay, so the next chapter picks up with Mommy and Dado talking about how they're going to have to be strong. They're going to have to dig deep and find something in themselves that they never knew they had so that they can kill this horrible monster with knives. That's their plan. And once they decide that that's their plan, they decide the best thing to do is to just feel good about it. And in order to feel better about that plan and feel better about themselves, they finally decide to get themselves cleaned up, because at this point Dado has like a full-on beard, nobody's showered in a while, everybody's nervous and scared and wearing the same clothes. So they all go upstairs to the bathroom together. Dado shaves his beard and takes a shower, then Ursula, mommy, she and Bella, they shower, they put on clothes. They ask Bella what clothes she wants to wear, and she says she wants to wear her party dress because they're all going to feel good about this. So they dress nice, they put on their party clothes, and then they just wait until other mommy shows up again because they know she's going to show up. After a while, Bella keeps falling asleep. They finally hear it happening. The dogs are at the bottom of the stairs. They're barking. Bella can smell other mommy somewhere, and they all go upstairs together. They don't want to leave Bella by herself, so Dado goes up first. Bella goes up after him, and mommy, real mommy, is walking behind her, and then she kind of puts Bella right behind her but is holding her hand while they get to the top of the stairs. And at the end of the hallway is a secondary pantry. It's like another, like a linen closet, but it's big enough for someone to hide in, and it's slightly cracked open. So they're like, okay, that's it, that's where other mommy is. So they go up to the door and they're like, okay, all right, we just have to do this. And they run in there screaming, and they're just kind of like stabbing into the dark. And the whole time Bella is like, is this the right thing to do? Wasn't other mommy my friend? And she's trying to imagine her parents like stabbing other mommy in the face, and they both look crazy, and she just doesn't even want to look at them because she's never seen this look on their faces before. In the middle of all that, someone starts ringing the doorbell, and in the distraction, all of a sudden Bella's bedroom door slams shut, and they realize that other mommy has gone away. She's gone into Bella's bedroom, and they're like, was she always in the bedroom? What's going on? They get downstairs, and Lois, that old woman, the old hippie woman who tried to help them earlier, is out front, and she's like, I have not been able to stop thinking about you guys. What's going on with you? And I think I figured out the solution. I think we need to make Bella less appealing to whatever this thing is. It's obsessed with her. It wants to corrupt her innocence. And so I think in order to make her not as appealing of a host or whatever, we need to destroy her innocence first. And so I'm like, okay, where's this going? This is a crazy plan. So they get in the car and they drive and drive and drive all the way to Lake Michigan. They go all the way up to the beach because they figured distance could at least help. They're not sure if it really is going to be a big help because they don't know how fast or how far other mommy can actually travel, but they figure distance would help, especially with the conversation they're planning on having later. So Lois and Bella stay awake, keeping watch while mommy and Dado get some sleep. And at the very edge of the beach, they both are looking at this thing that looks like it might be a dog with dark fur, and it's long and spindly, like a skinny looking big dog that keeps walking towards them but never seems to get any closer. And they both kind of choose to ignore that. After a little while, the sun starts to rise or the parents wake up. Whatever happens is it's time for them to take Bella's innocence, essentially. And to do that, they have to tell Bella a secret that they've been keeping for a really long time. And it turns out that Bella's mom, Ursula, has not only been cheating on her father, but she has cheated multiple times on multiple men. And what happened was, when she was a young woman, she married a man named Douglas Kane, and her name was Ursula Kane. He was 10 years older than her. The reason they thought they got along was because they both liked the same bars and they liked to close them out with drinking, and they had very little in common, but she liked the fact that her name would be Ursula Kane, and she was young enough to think that that was a good reason to be in a relationship. And after a while, she found herself cheating on him over and over again, sometimes even with her husband's best friends. So she was in a really dark place, and she ended up meeting Dado, or Russ, at a cafe, and he asked what she was going to order, and she said she was going to order one thing, and he said, well, I'm going to order the same because that sounds good. And she laughed at that and realized it was the first time she'd actually laughed from a place of like innocence and from a place of joy and actually finding something funny, not just being drunk or trying to flirt with somebody. And quickly after that, it stopped being innocent because she started having an affair with Russ, and the two of them would sneak around and go and like stay at Russ's apartment and stuff. And so she tells Bella, all the times we talked about going to school together, none of that was true. We did go to the same school, but all the times we talk about hanging out at school, we were really hanging out at his apartment while we were in the middle of this affair. Then after a little while, Ursula realizes that she's pregnant. And she knows she's going to have to tell Douglas and tell him that the marriage is over, that she has cheated on him, that it's not his baby. He's very excited that there is going to be a baby. And then 9 weeks pass and she's able to do a paternity test. Russ gives Ursula a little bit of his blood so that they can test to see if Russ is the father. And right when she's about to wake Douglas up and tell him that he's not the dad, that she's been cheating on him, the doctor calls and tells Ursula that Douglas is actually the father. And so a few more weeks pass, she doesn't call it off, she doesn't tell Douglas, and it's not until he discovers her sneaking around behind him that he calls for a divorce, and he says he has no interest in raising Bella, even though Bella is his biological daughter. So Russ is like, I will marry you and I will raise this girl as my daughter, and they start this new life together. Russ is actually somewhat lenient with Ursula about cheating on him because he knows he was somebody who had cheated before, and he feels like it's kind of justice for him. At the end of this story, Bella's whole world has been blown apart. She thinks her parents are liars, her dad is not her dad. This is innocence being revoked. Like, they even asked her dad, Dado is like, is this innocence being destroyed? And Lois is like, yeah, I think it is. And in all of this, as Bella's like running away from them down the beach, trying to get sense of what's going on, she knows other mommy is there. She can smell her. She can sense her. She knows that other mommy is that dog on the beach. And she keeps telling them, I think it worked. Other mommy's not here. I don't see her. I don't sense her. She's not around, because she is so mad at them, and if they're gonna be liars, she's gonna lie back. She tries to like run into the water to scream, and she sees other mommy in the water. She sees like her legs so long that they touch the ground, and then she sees in the waves there's one wave that doesn't move, and Lois seems to be like, hey, do you see that over there? Ursula just full on smacks Lois in the face and is like, get out of here. So Lois is like, I will be renting a car and driving back on my own. I hope this worked. Thank you guys. Sorry to have you unburden your family's darkest secrets. I hope it helps. Doesn't seem to, because as they're driving home, the mom is really tearing herself apart. She's like, this is my fault. This is about me. The fact that it's other mommy, because this mommy has ruined everything, and this mommy has not appreciated everything good that she had in her life. And she's like, and you know what? I don't even feel like I've learned my lesson. Like, I think I would still complain and want to go find better food and better housing and have more than what I have. She's like, I'm a terrible person. And the dad's like, you're not terrible. Like, this, people are blah, like, he's trying to make her feel better. And she's like, I don't want to hear it, Russ. You're always so good. You always see the positive side of life. But maybe I want to be like you. Being so good and full of light has put the pressure on me to be dark. Like, you're the fun parent and I'm the horrible bad parent who's full of darkness. And it's just a lot, and I just feel like you don't. All the while that this is happening, something is pushing on the back of Bella's seat from the trunk, and the seats kind of start, you know how in some cars you can open the trunk from the interior of the car? Well, a finger is poking out from there, and like an eye peeked out, and when Bella tries to look closer, she can't see anything, it's just dark, but she can smell it. And so she knows that other mommy is in the trunk of the car, and she tries to speak up and be like, hey, guys, and they're too busy arguing up in the front seat about their greatest shame that was just laid out before their daughter. And they knew that they wanted to tell her eventually, but at what age do you tell your child that she's the biological daughter of the man her mom cheated on with her dad, like with her adopted dad? It's a big heavy thing. But they pull up and they see Grandma Ruth is parked outside, and Ursula's like, what are you doing here? And Russ is like, I told her I think you needed a friend. And Bella goes right up to her and says, are you my real grandma? And she's like, absolutely, I am your real grandma. So they all go in, they hang out for a little while, and then they're like, hey, we need to take shifts sleeping. We don't know for sure if this has worked. Is that okay with you? And the grandma's like, I'm wide awake. I'll stay up. Bella, why don't you keep me company? You guys get some rest and we can, we'll wake you up later in the night. and they start working on that Michigan puzzle. And the more that they work on it, the sleepier Bella gets, and she keeps like waking up and seeing that more of the puzzle is done, and then she'll go to sleep for a little while, and then a big chunk of the puzzle is done. And Grandma Ruth starts being like, that right there is the beach you were at just 2 hours ago. Then she's like, and here's this road. This is the road you were on just 2 hours ago. And she's giving a lot more detail than she should be able to. And like in the printed picture of this map of Michigan, she can see like one wave that isn't moving like the others, and she's like, wow, this is a really detailed map. The whole time Grandma Ruth is going on this big tangent, and it's a good speech where she's talking about how these sort of things, finding out these secrets, can be really hard and they're painful, and Bella doesn't need to get over it right away. It is something that she needs to think about and confront and deal with, but in a lot of cases people can set up statues to their bad feelings when something like this happens. And the longer a statue is erected in honor of pain, the harder it is to remove. And she's like, think of your heart as a house, Bella. It's full of closets and rooms and other things, and it might seem small, but there's really so much space in there. And you can fill it with statues of things that make you feel bad, or you can fill it with good things. And so make sure that your heart is open, Bella, and you're willing to let good things in, and you're not holding on to the bad. And so I think all of us are sitting here saying, hey, you're talking a lot, Grandma, about hearts and being open, and it's making me concerned, because part of it is good advice, good information for someone who's had something terrible happen to them, to be like, hey, this sucks, and it's gonna suck for a while, and it's never gonna be good news, but you can move on from it and find joy in life still, and you don't have to be sad about it always. Like, a time will come when things are better. That's the gist of the message, if we're looking at it as an old woman talking to her granddaughter. However, I do not think it's an old woman talking to her granddaughter, because she's talking more and more about hearts. She keeps being really detailed about exactly the path that the car took from the beach to the house, which Grandma Ruth was not a part of. And Bella notices like a dark hair on one of Grandma Ruth's fingers. And so she starts getting a little nervous, but finally she keeps falling asleep throughout all of this and then waking back up, and Grandma Ruth is still talking about the importance of keeping an open heart. And then finally she asks Bella, will you let me into your heart? And Bella screams no. All of a sudden, Mommy and Daddy are awake, and they hear Grandma Ruth scream from upstairs. And Bella, by this point, has hidden in the closet near the front door. She's in like the coat closet, and she keeps trying to get her parents to know where she is, but she's afraid to cry out in case other mommy finds her. And when she finally does scream like, Mommy, Daddy, I'm in here, she feels a hand behind her, and she looks. Grandma Ruth is in the closet with her arms crossed over her chest. I'm not sure if she was laying down dead, if she was standing up, if it was other mommy, if Grandma Ruth was really there ever at any point, or if it was always other mommy the whole time. All I know is that other mommy is upstairs, and you can hear Grandma Ruth up there too. Then she hears Daddo scream and fall really heavy, like something fall really heavily. And then she hears the same from her mommy. She hears Mommy Ursula scream and something really heavy fall. And finally, Bella runs upstairs and she's like, Mommy, Daddy, it's me, Bella. It's me, Bella. Are you okay? She goes into her bedroom and she sees Mommy and Daddo are both laying face down on the floor. She gets in bed. She says, it's me, Bella. And then she pulls her blankets up to her chin, and other mommy comes out of the closet and says, hi, it's you, Bella. And then she asks, can I come into your heart? And Bella says yes. And then all of a sudden, Bella feels like something inside her is asking her to leave her own house. And next thing she knows, would make more sense if I just read it to you. And I think of how happy Mommy and Daddo could be. I remember them laughing at jokes in movies and holding hands at the zoo. And I say, yes. Other mommy's eyes are suddenly where they're supposed to be. They show white blue, and then she disappears. And I feel like I'm being asked to leave my own house. I feel like there's a closet going up around me. I feel like I'm in a corner that nobody knows about, and that if I ever make a sound again, someone will think it's me, Bella, me who is haunting my house. Other mommy, I say, where are you? But I know where she is. She's sitting on my bed now, just where I was sitting a second ago, and her face is wet with tears, and she needs to wipe her nose. And I think I know where I'm going. Yeah, up ahead I can see where other mommy comes from now. And it's not a closet, no. There's so much room. And it's not a heart, no. But maybe I'll find a friend in there, in all that room, someone to carnation for me. Maybe. I feel like I'm in a corner of a space big enough to hold everything I've ever done and everything everyone's ever said. And I don't think there was enough room in my heart for more than mommy and daddo and me. This is where other mommy comes from. This is where she lived. And I hear my voice. Someone says, "Hello, I'm Bella." And there's room. So much room. But it's not a house my voice speaks into. And it's not a home. And that's it. That's all. That's the end of the story. So I think I'm going to let it sit for a second, and I'm going to come back tomorrow and film the outro after I've had a chance to let that simmer, let it stew, kind of let the story beats and threads connect themselves in my mind. But I really enjoyed it, actually. It was eerie, it was uncomfortable, it had a great tone. The point of view and the voice of Bella was really strong. I loved the way that information was seeded out in these small details from Bella's point of view. So you're getting this child's eye view up at the drama that's happening around her, and there's this overarching horror that's happening. But like all good horror stories, the heart of it is what's happening in the family. The best haunted house books are when the haunted house is a representation of some sort of grief, some sort of emotional thing going on in the family. It's the family that's haunted by the thing, not a house that's haunted by an entity. This was good because it was both the family being haunted by past guilt and secrets, but also the family being haunted by this thing. And it's never fully stated what Other Mommy really is, but I think we can imagine just from how the book ended that Other Mommy could potentially even be another little girl like Bella who's been waiting her turn to find someone to switch with. Maybe that's what's been happening. Someone got tricked a long time ago and has been waiting to trick someone else so that they could get their childhood and their life back from that loss of innocence. I don't know. It's a lot. There's much to ponder, much to think about, but the tone of this book is great. It's eerie. It has good scares. The way that the scary moments are dropped into the story are really effective. And prose-wise, very beautiful. I just liked it. I'm going to leave it there until I've had more time to let my thoughts stew. I've let it sit, I've let it simmer, and ultimately, I really enjoyed this book. The story, the monster, and the relationships were all compelling. The unique tone and tenor of the book and the voice of Bella, the young protagonist, was extremely well executed and made the reveals of Other Mommy incredibly effective. In fact, as this review on the back here says, this book has actual jump scares, trust me, daytime only in a room with no closets. This book does manage to evoke a sense of Screen-style jump scares because you're lulled into complacency by the deceptively simple and childlike prose, and then boom, all of a sudden, what if the woman's face was right next to yours and her eyes were on the bottom of her face? So the writing was incredibly vivid and clear in a way that truly drew you into the story, and you really felt like you were seeing what Bella was seeing. So that was very, very well done. I will say that the jump scares and those unsettling jabs of description that really amp up the atmosphere were at their strongest during the first 10 chapters of the book, because at that point really all you knew was that there was a little girl and there was something in her closet. And that was enough that each description was like more and more chilling the more information you started to get. Then, as we moved deeper into the story and the focus shifted slightly to more of the relationship dynamics, we knew more or had like a better idea of who Other Mommy was. The jump scares weren't as like, maybe not as prominent. They didn't hit you the same way those early jump scares did, but the tension is always there in the book. And one thing I love is when a haunted house story ends up being both a haunted house, like the people aren't going crazy and the monster is real, but also a metaphor for guilt, regret, or trauma haunting a family. Bonus points if it manages to make me cry. Now, this story did end up being both of those things I love. The creature was real, and so was the repressed guilt and regret, but it does not get the bonus points because it didn't quite hit the emotional mark for me. And that comes down to the ineffective solution that Lois recommends, that ruining Bella's innocence would be the best way to get Other Mommy to leave her alone. It does serve as a good way to reveal the family's deepest secrets, but because that's the purpose it serves, it feels a little bit convenient. Now, I loved that the creature was real and that everyone could see Other Mommy when she decided to show herself, as it would have been frustrating to read a whole book where everyone just kept brushing Bella off for her imaginary friend. So I liked that earlier on in the book than I expected, we actually had people believing Bella and joining her in this like effort to get away. So she wasn't alone in this. But the fact that there was no real consensus on what the Other Mommy was, no, creature with an established lore either in the movie or in pop culture that has a set of rules on how to deal with it, was on one hand a refreshing twist, because what the heck was that? But on the other hand, because the creature doesn't seem to have any age-old classic monster lore to fall back on, like vampires don't like sunlight and ghosts won't cross a line of salt, it did make Lois's appearance and the solution she suggests feel like a convenient way for the author to drop the piping hot tea about the parents, rather than something that completely clicked with the stories and characters. It's not that it was too clunky or like ruined the book in any way. I think it does, in context, flow almost perfectly. The scene and the solution that Lois suggests feels like a desperate, unfounded grasping at straws, which is exactly what it is, because by that point in the story, the parents have exhausted every known option, including trying to stab a ghost, essentially. So the fact that the solution, let's try to destroy Bella's innocence, feels hopeless, fits the story. But it's just there's like a tiny little crunch to it where it just didn't quite seem like that was the way to get to that solution. Like maybe there could have been a different path that would have run a bit smoother with the story and the characters. And because that felt a tiny bit more manufactured, I think that made it less impactful for me personally. Like the emotions of the scene didn't quite click. And you know what? It didn't deter my enjoyment of the book. The only thing it deterred was the book getting the few bonus points that you get if you make me cry. It didn't quite make me cry, but it's still fantastic. On to Ursula and Russ, talking more about the characters and the roles that they serve in the story. They've actually switched the stereotypical roles usually found in a haunted house story. Russ is the stay-at-home parent trying to keep the home open and warm the way the mom usually does in the story, whereas Ursula is the absentee working parent whose dissatisfaction at home leads to extramarital affairs. You usually see that more in the dad role in this kind of movies, like he's got a new job or he doesn't have a job, but they're still moving into a new house. And then he's the one who's like seeing things. You think of Jack Torrance in the movie version of The Shining. You think of the dad in Sinister. I can't remember most, but it's like usually the dad who's like, nothing's going on and we're fine and I've got to go to work and who cares who Cheryl is. So I think that switch, that flip adds a lot of nuance to the story. And it's a perspective that we don't often see. It's exploring an avenue of motherhood that is not often explored. Usually the mom is the mama bear, the comforting, warm presence. And in this, that role has been given to the dad. And Added to that is the fact that we're on the outside with Bella, this little girl, looking in on these big adult topics that she's only just coming to terms with. So what we're seeing is being filtered through a layer of childhood innocence that kind of removes some of the details and nuance that would give us a more complete and perhaps a more sympathetic view of Ursula and Russ. Ursula in particular. We're not getting the story from inside Ursula's head or inside Russ's head. We're seeing it as Bella sees it. Some of the things that show that there is more detail and nuance to this dynamic, to Ursula's behavior, is the fact that Grandma Ruth, Ursula's mom, adores Russ, implying that she is happy Ursula is no longer with her first husband. And she mentions that Ursula needs to stop beating herself up about what she did in her past. Russ also mentions that Ursula's first husband was not a kind man and implies that he was abusive. So while Ursula's actions initially seem completely indefensible because at one point in the story she abandons her child for a full day after seeing the monster that's been living in her kid's bedroom and goes to be with her affair partner during that time, we have the nuggets of context to show that Ursula is a woman carrying around a lot of guilt and is lashing out in a destructive way because of it. And we also see that those closest to her, like her husband and her mom, still love her enough to try and give her grace despite her behavior. So while she is lashing out, she does still have support and love, even if she's kind of pushing against it because she doesn't know how to accept it when she herself feels so guilty. So that tension, that crunchiness of expectations of what a mom should do and be in this kind of story compared to what Ursula does and is purposeful. There is actually some truth to her statement that the other mommy, who's always present, always there, always close, was able to get near her child because she herself was not present. She was holding on to old hurts and saw her family as more of a tether than a blessing and pulled away from them because of it, leaving space for something else to creep in closer and closer to her daughter as her own marriage fell apart. But we do see Ursula grow over the course of the story, not into somebody perfect because that's not the point of these kind of stories. That's not the point of growth. Nobody's ever going to be perfect, but we do see her grow. We see her become more willing to be grateful for what she has, and we see her choosing to stand and fight for her family where earlier she had fled. Even though this fighting for her family might cast her in a bad light and make her face truths that she'd been running from. So that Ursula's whole arc, the family dynamics there were beautifully done, especially when all of that nuance and the intricacy of these relationships and the themes of forgiveness and grace and growing are pulled from little nuggets of context we get, passing conversation and offhand comments, because all of this is told through the eyes of a little girl. So masterful storytelling in the subtle nuances and little bits and pieces we see and that we, the readers, see and understand that Bella cannot. My only true critique of the book, like I was saying, is that the reveal of the family secret felt a tiny bit convenient, but not in a way that was detrimental to the story. More in a way that it was just a slight marker or flag highlighting the narrative difficulties of telling a story like this from a child's perspective. I'm not sure how else Bella or us, the reader, could have learned about this information from the parents without them just coming outright and saying it. And so there needed to be some catalyst that got them to the point where they were divulging all this information. And so the fact that this seems like it is the only solution to get us there, you can kind of feel that constraint in the writing, where maybe if it wasn't from the point of view of Bella, there might have been a more artful turn into the reveal. But having decided to write the book this way, it kind of just had to be like, hey, I'm going to come right out and say it. We need to destroy Bella's innocence. Let's all go to a beach and reveal all our deep, dark family secrets. All right? I know we were going to tell her this later, but let's just go. That's what it is. It was just like a tiny bit of friction against the parameters that Josh Malerman set for himself when he decided to write this book from the eyes of a child. The book as a whole is still incredibly effective, but that is my one critique, is that I could feel it just a little bit. It was a little bit crunchy in that spot. The story does not have a happy ending, but rather an ambiguous one. And I do like my haunted house books to have a hopeful ending because I think ultimately them being a metaphor for grief or trauma, there being a hopeful ending means that there is hope to get over whatever that grief or trauma is. There is redemption, there is grace, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can come through something terrible and come out the other side. Even if you're not unchanged, you can be released from the things that were holding you back. Because of my faith, like, I love when haunted house stories have that trajectory because it mimics the, like, story of Christ. Like, we're mired in our sins and then we find him and we are released from those past fears and sins and traumas and doubts. So I think that they serve as a beautiful metaphor, a similar journey of faith. But I know not every book can end happily, and as far as unhappy endings go, this is a very satisfying one for this story because it is eerie and it's ambiguous and it fits the narrative, because the closer you get to the end of the story, the clearer it becomes that the only actual solution to the problem of the other mommy is for Bella to say yes to her question. The parents exhausted basically every avenue of help that they could think of. Nothing was going to change until, honestly, until Bella said yes. Like, it was, other mommy seemed to be an unstoppable force. And by the end, it seems clear that the parents are both dead. Bella is going where other mommy is from, and other mommy has taken control of her body. And the final line, and I hear my voice, someone says, "Hello, I'm Bella." And there's room, so much room. But it's not a house my voice speaks into, and it's not a home. And it makes me ask, was it not a house and not a home because it wasn't really Bella speaking at all? And so the family unit that made their house into a home, Bella, Mommy, and Daddo, because they are all gone. Mommy and Daddo are dead. Bella is now going to where other mommy goes. The family unit is scattered, it's shattered. Is that why Bella's voice speaking into this place was her not speaking into a house or home? Because now it was just a building. Now it was just a room. Now it had no heart, which is a big theme of the grandma's, like, monologue to Bella at the end. Or it could be that it was not a house and it was not a home because it was something other. It's this unknown open space that other mommy was from. Maybe neither. Maybe both. In any case, this was a fantastic read. Eerie, uncomfortable, genuinely scary, heartfelt, sad, and beautifully written. I really, really enjoyed this book. And even if you watch this video all the way to the end, my recap can in no way capture the experience of reading this book, the subtle nuances and wordplay that make the scares so scary because of the way it's told, like, because it comes from such a place of childhood innocence. So I recommend putting this bad boy on hold at your local library and giving it a read. And that is what I did. Nobody realizes yet that Other Mommy is based on incidents at the house. I didn't even have to wait. I put it on hold and they gave it to me in a handful of days because it was at a faraway library and it had come from a different branch. But yeah, like, do it now before everybody realizes and there's like 18 holds on it. But that is going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more like this, please like and subscribe, and comment below if you've read the book. If you haven't read the book, will you watch the movie? Did you get jump scared by the trailer as Nolan intended, etc. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Jesus loves you. Okay, thanks. Bye! Hello. Post-end screen summer here. Now, I always end these videos with God bless and Jesus loves you, but I wanted to start sharing a little bit more. So today's verse is Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I do feel like this kind of fits the theme of this book and sort of what I was talking about with wanting haunted house stories to end with hope. I think that a haunted house story can be a beautiful metaphor for redemption and for grace. And in a lot of cases and in a lot of these stories, it's dealing with broken-hearted people and people with crushed spirits. And right now, It is a weird, hard, scary time, and I wanted to remind those who already know the Lord that He is where our comfort and peace comes from, and let anyone watching this who doesn't know the Lord that this offer extends to you as well. You could also have that peace and comfort. It's hard trying to share a single verse like this when I don't know who's actually watching this video. Maybe you're somebody who reads your Bible every day, or maybe your only experience with Christianity is through TV, like Angela from The Office, or maybe you've been through something hard and you've been hurt by somebody in the church. It's a big topic to get into at the end of an almost completely unrelated video about a haunted house book. So what I'll say instead is just this. If that verse intrigued you, go and read the whole psalm. And if you find that psalm intrigues you, I don't know, try reading the book of John. And maybe if you liked John, you could read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And then once you get to the end of them, you could just read the whole New Testament. Then once you finished reading the New Testament, you could just read the Old Testament too. And then you could just read the Bible all the way through in one go. And then at that point, you might as well just start doing a daily devotional so that you read a little bit of your Bible every day. You can find yourself in a very to give a mouse a cookie situation very easily. Oh no. And if at any point along the way you decide to declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10 verse 9. That's right. A second bonus Bible verse. I bet you weren't expecting that. With that, I will say, I hope you, the person watching this, has a blessed day. I hope something good happens for you that brings you joy, and I hope you know that you are loved. With that, I will officially end this video. God bless. Jesus loves you. And this time for real. Okay, thanks.